Ambassador Lee Taman walked through the long hallways of the Galactic Council station. His black shoes clicked against the metal floor as he made his way to the main meeting room. Behind him, Captain Park Heejin followed quietly. She wore her blue uniform with pride, but her face showed worry. Today was important. The humans had asked for permission to build new homes on planets in the Kepler sector. They had worked hard for this moment. For 15 years, Taman had spoken for Earth in this place. He had made friends with aliens from many worlds. He had helped solve problems between different species. He thought the council respected humans now. The meeting room was huge. It could hold representatives from all 847 species in the galaxy. The ceiling was so high that Taman could barely see the top. Lights from different worlds made the room glow in many colors. Some aliens needed different types of light to see properly. Taman took his seat at the human table. It was small compared to the tables of older species. The Altarians had a big golden table near the front. The Xanthari had silver chairs that floated in the air. The humans got a simple metal table near the back. "Today we will vote on colonization requests," said Supreme Chancellor Kixmoth. The old insect leader stood on 6 legs at the center of the room. His voice came through the translation device as a low buzz. "First, the Terran Federation requests rights to the Kepler sector." Taman stood up. He had practiced his speech many times. "Honored council members," he began, "humanity asks for permission to build new worlds in the Kepler sector. We have studied the area for 5 years. There are 12 planets that could support human life. We promise to protect any existing life forms and follow all council rules." He explained how humans had helped the galaxy. They had built trade routes between distant worlds. Human doctors had cured diseases that killed millions. Human engineers had designed better starships. Human farmers had grown food to feed hungry planets. Human soldiers had fought pirates and kept space safe. "We have given much to the galaxy," Taman said. "Now we ask only for space to grow our families and build our future." The room was quiet when he finished. Then Councillor Velthar of the Altarians stood up. He was tall and thin with blue skin and 4 arms. His people had been in space for thousands of years before humans even discovered fire. "The Altarians vote no," Velthar said. His voice was cold. "Humans are too young for such responsibility. They are emotional creatures who make decisions with their hearts instead of their minds. They should stick to what they do best: simple work and making entertainment for civilized species." Other aliens laughed. The sound hurt Taman's ears. He felt his face get hot with anger, but he stayed calm. More species voted. The Xanthari said no. The Krell said no. The Voxians said no. One by one, species that humans had helped voted against them. Many gave no reason at all. But then something worse happened. Species that had done almost nothing for the galaxy got permission for better places. The Yirik, who had joined the Council only 50 years ago, got 3 star systems near the galactic center. The Hefani, who had never fought a single battle to protect others, got mining rights on rich asteroid fields. Taman watched in shock. These species had not helped anyone. They had not cured diseases or fought pirates or fed the hungry. But they got what they wanted because they were more mature than humans. Then Chancellor Kixmoth announced something new. "The Council has decided to create a new tax," he said. "The developmental species tax will help guide younger races toward proper behavior. All species less than 5,000 years old must pay extra fees for council services." Taman's blood turned cold. Only 3 species in the entire galaxy were less than 5,000 years old. The other 2 were tiny groups with just 1 planet each. This tax was aimed directly at humanity. "This is not fair," Taman said, standing up again. "Humans have contributed more to galactic peace and progress than most species twice our age." Velthar laughed. "Contributed? You mean you have entertained us with your primitive emotions and simple solutions? But that does not make you ready for real responsibility." "Perhaps," said another alien, "humans should focus on what they are good at. Physical labor, amusing stories. Leave the important decisions to those who understand them." The vote was held. 632 species voted yes for the tax. Only 47 voted no. Most of those were small, weak species who knew they might be next. Taman felt something break inside him. For 15 years he had believed in this system. He had thought that hard work and good intentions would earn respect. He had been wrong. Captain. Park Hyejin saw the change in his face. She had served with him for 8 years. She knew he was about to do something important. Taman walked to the center of the room. The translation devices carried his voice to every corner. The Terran Federation hereby withdraws from all Galactic Council proceedings, effective immediately, he said. His voice was calm, but everyone could hear the steel in it. We will honor existing treaties for 30 standard days to allow for transition. After that, humanity will have no obligations to the Council or its members. The room went completely silent. Even the translation devices seemed to stop humming. Taman reached up and removed his translation device from his ear, the small silver item that had let him speak with hundreds of alien species for 15 years. He placed it gently on the podium in front of Chancellor Kixmoth. We came here believing in cooperation and mutual respect, he said in English, knowing that only a few aliens could understand him without the translator. We were mistaken. He turned and walked toward the exit. Captain Park Hyejin fell in step beside him. Other humans in the room, diplomats, guards, technicians, translators, began to follow. They had all heard what happened. They all understood what it meant. As they passed the Altarian table, Captain Park Hyejin looked directly at Councillor Velthar. She smiled, but it was not a friendly smile. It was the smile of someone who knew a secret that others would learn too late. The humans filed out of the chamber in perfect order. No one ran, no one shouted. They left with dignity, but they left completely. Behind them, the aliens began to talk loudly. Some laughed about the emotional humans giving up so easily. Others seemed worried about what this might mean. Chancellor Kixmoth called for order. The primitive species have removed themselves from civilized society, he announced. This is probably for the best. Now we can focus on important matters without their constant interruptions. But not everyone agreed. In the back of the room, some of the smaller species looked frightened. They remembered who had protected them from pirates. They remembered who had brought them medicine when their people were dying. They remembered who had shared technology and knowledge freely. Outside the station, human ships began to move. The diplomatic vessel that had brought Taman's team started its engines. Other human ships in the area received new orders. They all began to head toward the nearest hyperspace jump point. As the human ships disappeared into the dark of space, few aliens realized what had just happened. The galaxy had just lost its most innovative, most helpful, and most powerful species. And they had driven them away with insults and unfairness. The consequences would be felt very soon. Admiral Kim Seokjin stood on the bridge of the battleship Terra's Pride as it moved through hyperspace. 3 days had passed since Ambassador Taman walked out of the Galactic Council. 3 days since humanity had said goodbye to galactic politics, forever. Seokjin looked at the star charts on his screen. Red markers showed where human ships had been stationed. There were hundreds of them spread across the galaxy. Some protected trade routes from pirates. Others helped with emergencies on alien worlds. Many worked with alien crews to keep peace between different species. Admiral, said Commander Lee Sunmi from her station, all human vessels have acknowledged the recall order. They are beginning to withdraw from joint operations. Good, Seokjin said. Make sure they take all their equipment with them. Every scanner, every weapon, every computer. The aliens wanted us gone, so we will be completely gone. On the other side of the galaxy, Dr. Yoon Chae-young was packing her laboratory. For 12 years, she had worked at the Galactic Medical Research Center on Proxima Station. Her team had developed treatments for diseases that killed millions of VU aliens every year. They had created vaccines that stopped plagues before they could spread. Doctor, said her assistant Kim Min-jae, the alien doctors are asking if we can leave our research data behind. They say it belongs to the galaxy, not just to humans. Dr. Yoon smiled, but it was not a happy smile. Tell them that human brains created this research. Human creativity solved these problems. If they want the data, they can ask the council to vote on it. Maybe they will get 632 votes in favor. She sealed the last container of samples. Every virus culture, every genetic sequence, every experimental treatment would go back to Earth. The aliens had made it clear that humans were not mature enough for important work. Let them prove how mature they were by solving medical problems, without human help. Director Bang Namjoon was busy in his office on the trade station above Centauri Prime. Numbers flowed across his screens as he activated Protocol Exodus. Most aliens did not know that humans controlled more than 1/3 of all galactic trade. They owned shipping companies with alien names. They had invested in mines and farms and factories across hundreds of worlds. Begin Phase 1, Namjoon told his team. Sell all non-essential holdings, transfer all human assets to Terran space, close all credit lines to non-Terran entities. His assistant, Park Soo-young, looked worried. Sir, this will cause major problems in the financial markets. Some species depend on our investments for basic services. That is no longer our concern, Namjoon replied. The council made it clear that we are too primitive to have important responsibilities. Let them handle their own economy. The first signs of trouble began within hours. On the outer rim worlds, pirate attacks increased suddenly. The human patrol, ships that had protected those areas, were gone. The aliens who lived there had complained about human presence for years, saying they did not need protection from young species. Captain Choi Soo-hyun of the merchant vessel, Lucky Star, sent an emergency message to the Altarian Navy. 3 pirate ships are attacking our convoy. We need immediate assistance. The response came back after 2 hours. Altarian forces are currently deployed in more strategic locations. Try to escape on your own. Captain Choi remembered when human patrol ships would have arrived in 15 minutes. He also remembered Counselor Velthar saying that humans were too emotional to handle security properly. The pirates took his cargo and left his ship damaged in space. It would take 3 days for the nearest alien rescue ship to reach him. Similar problems began everywhere. The Universal Translation Network started having strange glitches. Alien diplomats found their messages being translated incorrectly. A trade agreement between the Krell and the Voxians became a declaration of war due to a translation error. Both species spent days trying to figure out what went wrong. The truth was that humans had been secretly maintaining the translation systems for decades. Human linguists understood how alien languages connected to each other. They had written the programs that made communication between different species possible. Now those humans were gone, and no one else knew how to fix the problems. On Rigel 7th, a strange illness began spreading through the alien population. It started slowly, but within days thousands were sick. The local doctors had never seen anything like it. We need to contact the human medical team, said Dr. Velkoth, the planet's chief physician. They have experience with hybrid diseases that affect multiple species. His assistant looked uncomfortable. Doctor, the humans are no longer part of the council. We cannot officially ask for their help. Then ask unofficially. This disease could kill millions. But when they tried to contact Dr. Yoon Chae-young's team, they found that all human medical personnel had already left alien space. Their research facilities were empty. Their laboratories were closed. The Galactic Council held an emergency session. For the first time in decades, they could not reach a quick decision about anything. The translation problems meant that many species could not understand each other properly. Important votes had to be delayed because no one was sure what they were voting for. Chancellor Kixmoth tried to maintain order, but he was clearly worried. Reports kept coming in about problems across the galaxy. Trade routes were failing. Security was breaking down. Medical crises were spreading. Counselor Zephyr of the Centauri Federation stood up with a datapad in his hands. I have been studying the economic reports, he said. The situation is worse than we thought. He activated a holographic display that showed galactic trade networks. Lines of light connected different worlds, showing how goods and services moved between them. But now many of those lines were flickering and going dark. Humans controlled 34% of galactic trade through shell companies and investment funds, Zephyr explained. They owned the shipping lines that carried food to outer worlds. They financed the mines that provided rare metals. They built the communication networks that keep our governments connected. The room was very quiet as the aliens realized what this meant. "How is that possible?" asked Velthar. "Humans have only been in space for a few hundred years. How could they control so much?" "Because they worked harder than anyone else," Zephyr replied. "While we debated in committees, they built businesses. While we worried about tradition, they created innovations. While we protected our territories, they connected the galaxy." More reports came in throughout the day. Food shortages on 12 worlds because human cargo ships had stopped deliveries. Mining operations shutting down because human engineers had taken their equipment. Communication blackouts in remote sectors because human technicians had maintained the relay stations. Admiral Kim Seok-jin received a message from the Council asking if human ships could temporarily continue their patrol duties while alien forces were repositioned. He deleted the message without reading it completely. Dr. Yoon Chae-young got requests from 17 different worlds asking for medical assistance. She forwarded them all to the Galactic Health Organization and suggested they ask the Council for funding. Director Bang Namjoon watched as alien stock markets crashed. Companies that had seemed strong and independent were revealed to depend on human investment and knowledge. Without human support, they could not function. On Earth, President Moon Tae-hyung met with his advisors. They discussed the reports coming from across the galaxy. Chaos was spreading faster than anyone had expected. "Perhaps we acted too quickly," suggested Defense Minister John Wanwoo. "Some innocent species will suffer because of our withdrawal." President Moon shook his head. The Council made their choice. They decided that humans were too primitive and emotional to participate in galactic civilization. Let them prove how advanced they are by solving these problems without us. "But sir," said Foreign Minister Kim Seul-gi, "some of these species voted against the tax. They supported us. And those species are welcome to contact us directly," the President replied. "But they must choose between loyalty to the Council and friendship with humanity. They cannot have both." As the first week ended, the galaxy began to understand what they had lost. Humans had not just been participants in galactic civilization, they had been its backbone. Their innovation had driven progress. Their military had kept peace. Their economy had connected distant worlds. And now they were gone. Chancellor Kixmoth sat alone in his office, reading report after report of problems across the galaxy. For the first time in his long life, he wondered if the Council had made a terrible mistake. But it was too late to fix it now. The humans had made their decision, and they showed no signs of changing their minds. The galaxy would have to learn to survive without them. General Choi Minho stood in the war room deep inside the Terran Defense Command Center. 3 weeks had passed since humanity left the Galactic Council. 3 weeks of watching the galaxy tear itself apart without human protection. The holographic display showed the latest intelligence reports. Red zones marked areas where fighting had broken out. Yellow zones showed worlds with severe problems. Green zones were becoming very rare. "The Thanagarian Empire has attacked 3 more worlds," reported Colonel Han Ji-sung. "They destroyed the Kalesh homeworld yesterday. The Council forces could not stop them." Minho nodded grimly. He had fought alongside Kalesh soldiers during the Void War. They were brave fighters, but their technology was decades behind the Thanagarians. Without human tactical support and advanced weapons, they never had a chance. "What about the Council's response?" Minho asked. "Slow and confused," Ji-sung replied. "They sent a fleet, but it arrived 2 days after the Thanagarians had already left. The alien commanders could not agree on strategy. Some wanted to chase the attackers. Others wanted to defend their own worlds. They ended up doing neither effectively." Minho remembered the old days when human strategists worked with alien forces. The humans would analyze the situation quickly and create clear plans. The aliens would provide local knowledge and additional ships. Together, they could respond to threats in hours instead of days. Now the aliens were trying to coordinate 847 different military traditions and command structures. It was like trying to direct an orchestra when none of the musicians could read the same sheet music. On the other side of the galaxy, Commander Song Ji-hyo sat in the captain's chair of the stealth ship Silent Thunder. Her vessel hung invisible, in space watching a battle between Council forces and Thanagarian raiders. The stealth technology was purely human-designed. Other species had tried for centuries to create ships that could hide from all sensors. Only human creativity had solved the problem, and they had never shared the secret with the Council. "Look at that," said Lieutenant Kim Tae-hyung from the sensor station. "The Zenthari cruiser is firing at empty space. Their targeting systems cannot track the Thanagarian fast attack ships." Ji-hyo watched as alien vessels blundered around the battlefield. The Council ships were bigger and more heavily armed, but they moved like they were swimming through thick mud. The Thanagarian ships danced around them like angry wasps. "The Thanagarians learned from fighting humans," she observed. "They know how to use speed and surprise, but the Council forces are still using formations from 1,000 years ago." 8. Krell battleship exploded as 3 Thanagarian ships attacked it from different directions. The Council fleet began to retreat, leaving debris and escape pods scattered across space. "Should we help?" asked Tae-hyung. "Those escape pods contain survivors." Ji-hyo considered it. Part of her wanted to save the aliens who were floating helplessly in space. But her orders were clear. Humanity was no longer responsible for galactic security. "Continue monitoring," she said. "We are here to observe, not to interfere." Meanwhile, the plague that had started on Rigel 7th was spreading to other worlds. Professor Kang De-sung had been studying similar diseases for years at the Galactic Research Institute. His team had developed treatments that could stop hybrid viruses from jumping between species. But Professor Kang was now back on Earth, and his research files were sealed in human databases. The alien doctors trying to fight the plague had no access to his work. Dr. Velkoth on Rigel 7th sent desperate messages to anyone who would listen. "The death toll is now over 50,000, he reported. "The disease is mutating faster than we can study it. We need human expertise immediately." The response from the Galactic Health Organization was always the same. "Humanity is no longer part of Council operations. We cannot provide their research data without proper authorization." But getting proper authorization required a Council vote, and the Council was too busy dealing with the Thanagarian attacks and economic collapse to vote on medical emergencies. The plague spread to 6 more worlds, then 12, then 23. Each new outbreak was worse than the last because the virus continued to evolve. General Choi Min-ho received daily reports about the growing chaos. Overlord Krexhai of the Thanagarian Empire was becoming bolder with each victory. His forces had destroyed entire fleets without losing a single ship. They had conquered 12 star systems in 3 weeks. "Intelligence suggests that Krexhai is planning something big," reported Major Lee Felix. "Our deep space monitors detected massive fleet movements in Thanagarian space. They are gathering ships from across their empire." "Target?" Minho asked. "Unknown, but the force is large enough to attack the core worlds. Maybe even Nexus Prime itself." Minho felt a chill. Nexus Prime was the capital of galactic civilization. If it fell to the Thanagarians, the Council would collapse completely. Hundreds of species would be left defenseless. In the past, such a threat would have triggered an immediate human military response. The Terran Deep Space Fleet would have been deployed within hours. Human battle groups would have reinforced Council defenses. Human strategists would have coordinated the galaxy's response. Now humanity watched from a distance as their former allies faced destruction. On Earth, President Moon Tae-hyung met with his cabinet to discuss the crisis. Intelligence reports covered the table showing the full scope of the galactic breakdown. "The situation is worse than our worst predictions," said Defense Minister John Won-woo. "Multiple wars are breaking out. The economy is collapsing. Diseases are spreading unchecked. Some species are on the verge of extinction. Do we have any responsibility to help?" asked Foreign Minister Kim Seol-gi. "These are billions of innocent lives at stake." President Moon was quiet for a long moment. He had been a young diplomat when humans first joined the Council. He had believed in the dream of different species working together for peace and progress. The council made their choice, he said finally. They decided that humans were too primitive and emotional to participate in galactic affairs. They wanted us to focus on simple work and leave important decisions to them. Let them make the important decision of how to save themselves. But, sir, protested Education Minister Park Ji-hoon, some of these species supported us. The Kalesh voted against the tax. They always treated humans with respect. And the Kalesh are dead, President Moon replied coldly. Destroyed while the council debated instead of acting. Their respect for humanity could not save them from Thanagarian weapons. Admiral Kim Seok-jin entered the room with an urgent message. Mr. President, we have received formal requests for assistance from 17 different worlds. They are offering to withdraw from the council if humanity will protect them. President Moon considered this. Individual species can approach us directly, he decided. But they must choose complete independence from the council. No partial measures, no trying to serve two masters. The message went out through secure channels. Any species that wanted human protection could have it, but only if they completely severed ties with the council first. Some species accepted immediately. The survivors of the Kalesh attack formally declared independence and requested admission to human space. 3 minor species followed within hours, but most aliens were too afraid to abandon the council. Even as it failed to protect them, they clung to the old system. They hoped that somehow the problems would solve themselves. Commander Song Ji-hyo's stealth ship monitored communications across the galaxy. The reports painted a picture of complete breakdown. Supply lines had collapsed. Communication networks were failing. Military coordination was impossible. The council is calling another emergency session, reported Lieutenant Kim Tae-hyung. They want to discuss temporary measures to address the current crisis. Ji-hyo almost laughed. The aliens were still holding meetings while their civilization burned around them. They thought they could solve everything with another committee and another vote. Any mention of contacting humanity? She asked. Chancellor Kix-Moth suggested it, but Councillor Velthar spoke against the idea. He said that asking for human help would show weakness and encourage other species to rebel against council authority. So even facing complete destruction, the aliens' pride was more important than survival. They would rather die than admit they had been wrong about humanity. The week ended with more bad news. The Thanagarian fleet was moving toward the core worlds. The plague had spread to 46 planets. Economic collapse had caused food riots on dozens of worlds. 3 entire species had gone extinct when their homeworlds lost life support due to system failures. General Choi Min-ho looked at the strategic displays one last time before leaving his office. The galaxy was dying, and humanity was watching. It happened from a safe distance. But he knew this could not continue much longer. Soon the council would have to choose between their pride and their survival. And when that moment came, humanity would be ready with an answer. The question was whether any aliens would still be alive to hear it. Chancellor Kix-Moth had not slept in 3 days. His insect body was built to handle stress, but even he had limits. The galaxy was falling apart, and he was running out of options. 7 star systems had fallen to the Thanagarians. The plague now covered 62 worlds. Food riots had broken out on almost 100 planets. Worst of all, intelligence reports suggested that Overlord Krexhai was preparing to attack Nexus Prime itself. We need to contact the humans, said Councillor Zephyr during the emergency session. Pride will not save us from extinction. Absolutely not, Velthar replied firmly. If we crawl back to the humans now, we will look weak. Other species will think they can also ignore council authority whenever they want. What council authority? Zephyr shot back. Half the galaxy is in flames, and we cannot do anything to stop it. The argument continued for hours. Some aliens wanted to ask humanity for help. Others refused to admit they had made a mistake. Meanwhile, the crisis grew worse every day. Finally, Chancellor Kix-Moth made a decision. I will personally lead a delegation to Earth, he announced. We will offer humanity a place on the High Council, with voting rights equal to their contributions to galactic civilization. You cannot do this without a vote, Velthar protested. I can and I will, Kixmoth replied. As Chancellor, I have emergency powers during times of crisis, and this is definitely a crisis. The delegation left for Earth the next day. It included representatives from 12 major species, all swallowing their pride to ask for human help. They traveled in the Council's most advanced ship, but even so, the journey to Sol system took 5 days. Captain Lim Yuna was on patrol duty when the alien ship arrived. Her destroyer, the New Sol, was part of the defensive fleet that now protected Earth. She watched her sensors as the Council vessel approached. Unidentified ship, you are entering Terran space. She transmitted. State your business. This is Chancellor Kixmoth of the Galactic Council, came the reply. I request permission to meet with your leadership on matters of urgent importance. Yuna almost smiled. 6 weeks ago, humans had been too primitive for important matters. Now the Chancellor himself was coming to ask for help. Permission granted, she said. Follow the escort ships to Earth orbit. Any deviation from the assigned course will be considered hostile. As the alien ship followed her destroyer toward Earth, Yuna noted how old and slow it seemed compared to human vessels. During their isolation, human technology had advanced rapidly. Without council restrictions and bureaucracy, human engineers had been free to innovate. The delegation was shocked when they saw the Sol system's defenses. Orbital platforms surrounded Earth like a metal shell. Battle stations floated at the edge of the system, their weapons pointed outward. Hundreds of warships patrolled in organized formations. How is this possible? Whispered Counselor Telnara of the Voxians. They only withdrew 6 weeks ago. How could they build so much so quickly? The truth was that humans had been secretly preparing for this moment for years. They had hidden factories in asteroid belts and underground facilities, on remote moons. When the break with the Council came, they were ready to reveal their true capabilities. Ambassador Jian Jungkook met the delegation at Earth's main orbital station. He had been Lee Taemin's deputy for 3 years before the withdrawal. Unlike his former boss, Jungkook still believed that diplomacy could solve problems. Welcome to Earth, he said politely. President Moon Tae-hyung will see you shortly. The aliens were escorted through the station's corridors. They saw human technology that was decades ahead of anything in Council space. Holographic displays showed information in ways they had never imagined. Artificial gravity systems worked so smoothly that the aliens could not tell they were on a space station. Remarkable, Chancellor Kixmoth said to Jungkook. When did humans develop such advanced technology? We have always been developing it, Jungkook replied. But Council regulations limited what we could build and where we could deploy it. Now that we are free from those restrictions, we can show what humans are truly capable of. The meeting with President Moon Tae-hyung took place in a conference room overlooking Earth. The planet looked beautiful from space, its blue oceans and white clouds unchanged by the galactic chaos. Mr. President, Chancellor Kixmoth began, the galaxy needs human help. We are prepared to offer humanity full membership on the High Council, with voting rights proportional to your contributions to galactic civilization. President Moon listened quietly as the Chancellor explained the offer. Humans would get special status among Council species. They would have veto power over decisions that affected them. They would be recognized as equals to the oldest and most advanced species. When the Chancellor finished, President Moon was quiet for a long moment. Then he spoke in a voice as cold as space itself. Too little, too late. The alien delegation looked shocked. They had expected negotiations, not immediate rejection. Mr. President, Councillor Zephyr said desperately, billions of lives are at stake. Surely we can find some arrangement that benefits everyone. The time for arrangements was 6 weeks. Ego, President Moon replied. When Ambassador Taemin asked for simple colonization rights, you laughed at him. When humans contributed more to galactic civilization than most species combined, you called us primitive. When we requested fair treatment, you created a tax aimed specifically at us. He stood up and walked to the window. Earth turned slowly below them, peaceful and protected. You had decades to treat humanity with respect, he continued. Instead, you used us for our labor and creativity while denying us equal status. Now you want our help because your system is failing. But why should we save a system that rejected us? Because innocent people will die, Chancellor Kixmoth said quietly. President Moon turned back to face the delegation. Innocent people are already dying. The Kalesh are extinct because you could not coordinate a proper defense. Millions have died from the plague because you denied access to human medical research. Entire worlds are starving because you never understood how human trade networks kept food flowing to remote areas. Ambassador Jungkook watched the alien faces and saw desperation growing in their eyes. They had finally realized how much they depended on humanity, but it might be too late. What would it take? Asked Counselor Telnara. Name your terms. President Moon smiled, but it was not a kind smile. Complete dissolution of the Galactic Council. Recognition of human authority over all former council territories. Reparations for 6 weeks of losses due to your incompetence. And personal apologies from every species that voted for the developmental species tax. The aliens looked at each other in shock. These terms would make humanity the dominant power in the galaxy, with all other species as junior partners. That is impossible, Felthar said. No species would accept such terms. Then no species will receive human assistance. President Moon replied calmly. We are quite comfortable in Sol system. We have everything we need here. The rest of the galaxy can burn for all we care. The delegation left Earth with no agreement. As their ship departed Sol system, Captain Lim Yuna watched them go. She had monitored their communications during the visit and knew they were arguing among themselves. Some aliens wanted to accept any terms humanity offered. Others refused to give up their independence. A few still insisted that they could solve the crisis without human help. While the delegation argued, the galaxy continued to collapse. The Thanagarian fleet was now only 3 days from Nexus Prime. The plague had mutated again and was spreading even faster. Economic systems were breaking down completely as trade networks failed. On Nexus Prime, emergency preparations began. The station's defenses were activated for the first time in centuries. Alien fleets gathered to defend the capital, but everyone knew they were not strong enough to stop the Thanagarians. Back on Earth, President Moon met with his advisors to discuss the situation. The council will fall within days, reported Intelligence Director Kim Jisoo. After that, individual species will start approaching us directly. They will have no choice. Some species deserve to survive, said Foreign Minister Kim Silgi. The Thraxians always supported us. The Alari voted against the tax. Perhaps we should offer them protection before it is too late. President Moon nodded slowly. Prepare evacuation plans for our genuine allies. When the council collapses, we will rescue the species that showed us respect. The others can face the consequences of their choices. Admiral Kim Seokjin entered with an urgent report. Mr. President, the Thanagarian assault fleet has begun its final approach to Nexus Prime. The battle will begin within hours. And the Council's response? They are sending everything they have, but our analysts predict total defeat. The aliens simply do not have the coordination or technology to stop Overlord Krexhai. President Moon walked to the window again and looked out at Earth's defenses. Somewhere beyond those stars, the greatest center of galactic civilization was about to be destroyed, and humanity would watch it happen from safety. Prepare our own fleets for deployment, he said finally. Not to save the Council, but to establish the new order that will replace it. When the smoke clears, we will be ready to take control. Fleet Admiral Park Jimin stood on the bridge of the dreadnought Terra Invictus as it dropped out of hyperspace near Nexus Prime. Around him, the combined might of humanity's secret fleet materialized from the darkness. 12 battle groups, each one more powerful than anything the galaxy had ever seen. The scene before them was chaos. Burning alien ships drifted through space like metal coffins. The great council station that had stood for thousands of years was breaking apart, its hull torn open by Thanagarian weapons. Escape pods scattered in all directions as the last defenders fled. Admiral, reported Captain Song Mingi from the tactical station. We are detecting Thanagarian forces throughout the system. Overlord Krexhi's flagship is near the station's core. They appear to be preparing to land troops. Jimin nodded grimly. The Thanagarians had won, just as everyone had predicted, but their victory would be short-lived. Signal the fleet, he ordered. Begin Operation New Dawn. Across the galaxy, similar scenes were playing out. Human task forces appeared at key strategic points, their ships seeming to materialize from nowhere. The stealth technology that had kept them hidden now revealed fleets that dwarfed anything the aliens had imagined. Commander Song Ji-hyo brought her stealth ship out of hiding near the Thanagarian flagship. For weeks, she had watched the galaxy tear itself apart. Now it was time to act. Target their command ship, she ordered. Full spread of quantum torpedoes. The Thanagarian vessel never saw the attack coming. One moment it was celebrating victory over the Council forces. The next, it was the expanding cloud of debris. Overlord Krexhi died without ever knowing what had killed him. Similar strikes hit Thanagarian ships throughout the system. The aliens who had conquered half the galaxy in 6 weeks were destroyed in 6 minutes by weapons they could not see and technology they could not understand. On Earth, President Moon Tae-hyung watched the battle reports with satisfaction. How long until the Thanagarian fleet is eliminated? He asked. 18 minutes, sir, replied Admiral Kim Suk-jin. Our ships are using hit-and-run tactics. The Thanagarians cannot target what they cannot detect. Excellent. And the evacuation of friendly species? Proceeding on schedule. We have secured the Thraxian homeworld and are evacuating the Ilari colonies. Both species have formally requested admission to the Terran Protectorate. The Terran Protectorate was humanity's new vision for galactic government. Earth would serve as the central power, with other species as protected members. Those who had shown friendship to humanity would be welcomed. Those who had not would face the consequences of their choices. Back at Nexus Prime, Ambassador Lee Taemin stepped onto the ruined council station. He wore the same diplomatic uniform he had worn 6 weeks ago when he walked out of this place. But now he returned as the representative of the galaxy's dominant power. The main council chamber was a wreck. Broken tables lay scattered across the floor. The Great Seal of Galactic Unity was cracked down the middle. Emergency lighting cast eerie shadows on the walls. Chancellor Kixmoth sat alone among the ruins. The old insect leader looked tired and defeated. Most of his fellow council members were dead or had fled when the Thanagarians attacked. Ambassador Taemin, Kixmoth said as the human approached. I suppose you have come to accept our surrender. Actually, Taemin replied, sitting down across from the Chancellor. I have come to offer you a choice. Join the Terran Protectorate as an equal member or face the galaxy alone. Kixmoth was surprised. He had expected demands for complete submission. What are your terms? Simple. Acknowledge human leadership in galactic affairs. Follow Terran law in interspecies matters. Contribute to the common defense according to your abilities. In return, you will receive protection, trade access, and a voice in government decisions. It was more generous than Kixmoth had dared hope. And species that refuse will be left to solve their own problems, Taemin said calmly. We will not interfere with their internal affairs, but we will not help them either. If they want to trade with Protectorate members, they will need to follow our rules. Across the galaxy, similar conversations were taking place. Human diplomats appeared on hundreds of worlds, offering the same choice. Join the New Order or face isolation. Some species accepted immediately. They had seen what happened when humans withdrew their support. They did not want to experience it again. Others tried to negotiate. They wanted the benefits of human protection without giving up their independence. These species learned quickly that humanity was no longer interested in compromise. A few species refused entirely. They declared that they would never submit to primitive human authority. These species were left alone just as they requested. Within weeks, most of them faced internal collapse as their economies and governments failed without human support. Dr. Yoon Chae-young returned to her laboratory on Proxima Station, but now she worked under very different conditions. The station was under Terran control, and she decided which species received medical assistance. "Doctor," said her assistant Kim Min-jae, "we have requests for plague treatment from 43 worlds. How should we prioritize them?" "Protectorate. Members first," she replied. "Then species that are considering membership. As for the others—" She paused, remembering how alien doctors had dismissed human medical knowledge as primitive. "They can try to solve the problem themselves." The plague that had killed millions across the galaxy was cured within days once human researchers were allowed to work freely. But the cure was only shared with species that acknowledged human authority. Director Bang Namjoon supervised the reconstruction of galactic trade networks from his new office on Nexus Prime. The old council chambers had been converted into the headquarters of the Terran Economic Authority. "Sir?" reported his assistant Park Soo-young. "The Altarian government is requesting restoration of their trade relationships. They say their people are facing severe shortages." Namjoon remembered Councillor Velthar's words about humans being suitable only for simple work and entertainment. He smiled coldly. "Tell them they are welcome to apply for membership in the Protectorate," he said. "Once they formally acknowledge human leadership and pay appropriate reparations for their past behavior, we will be happy to resume trade. And, if they refuse, then they can trade with whoever will accept their worthless currency and inferior goods." The Altarians held out for 2 weeks before their government collapsed. Food riots and economic chaos forced them to accept Terran terms unconditionally. President Moon Tae-hyung addressed the galaxy from the rebuilt council chambers. The room had been redesigned with Earth at the center, and other worlds arranged according to their relationship with humanity. "Today marks the beginning of a new era," he announced. "The old system that failed to protect innocent lives and reward honest contribution is gone forever. In its place, we established the Terran Protectorate, dedicated to peace, prosperity, and justice for all species willing to work together." He paused and looked directly at the camera that would carry his words to every world in the galaxy. "Some of you called us primitive. Some said we were too emotional for important responsibilities. Some suggested we focus on simple work and leave decisions to our betters. You were wrong about all of these things, but you were especially wrong about one. You thought you could survive without us." The speech was transmitted across the galaxy in hundreds of languages. But unlike the old Universal Translation Network, this one was completely controlled by human systems. Ambassador John Jungkook, now serving as Director of Alien Relations, met with representatives from species seeking Protectorate membership. The line of applicants stretched for kilometers outside his office. "We need to establish clear criteria," he told his staff. "Species that supported the developmental species tax should face higher requirements for membership. Those who showed friendship to humanity should have easier paths to inclusion." "What about species that remain neutral?" asked his deputy, Lee Chaeon. "Neutrality is a luxury they can no longer afford," Jungkook replied. "In the new galaxy, you are either with us or against us. There is no middle ground." Fleet Admiral Park Jimin established the Terran Space Command with headquarters on a massive orbital fortress above Earth. Human battle groups patrolled trade routes that had been lawless for weeks. Pirate attacks dropped to zero as word spread that attacking Protectorate ships meant facing human retaliation. "The galaxy is more peaceful now than it has been in decades," he reported to President Moon. "When everyone knows that there is one authority with the power to enforce justice, most criminals choose to obey the law instead." Dr. Yoon Chae-young opened new medical research centers on worlds throughout the Protectorate. Human doctors worked alongside alien physicians, but under human leadership and using human protocols. "We are making remarkable progress," she reported. "Without bureaucratic interference from council committees, we have developed treatments for diseases that had plagued the galaxy for centuries." 1 year after the withdrawal from the council, Ambassador Lee Taemin stood in the same spot where he had placed his translator device on the podium and walked away. But now the translator was unnecessary. The galaxy had learned to speak humanity's language. The council chambers bore a new name,